Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Startup Operators Weekly Roundup. For the first show of 2023, Roshan, how are you doing on your New Year resolutions?
Doing well, doing well. We're recording this for a second time because someone forgot to push record. So, yeah.
But how's your New Year resolutions coming along?
Good man. I mean, it lasted a few days at least this time. So, but there are another 300 plus days in the year. So, there's definitely hope.
Yeah.
Don't give up on your resolutions.
Well, at least yours lasted way more than mine because I think I broke mine in the first 6 hours of the night or day. But yeah, I think there's lots to look forward to in this year. Apart from New Year resolutions, there are other reasons to be excited because Shark Tank season 2 kicked off last week, and well,
Hmm.
the show is back with some drama. Then we also have 2023's latest IPO story coming up, which is Mamaearth. And I think Twitter is all over the place with the valuations they're asking. Then OYO has been asked to refile its DHRP papers as SEBI has returned them and asked the company to make some amendments to that. And then Microsoft announces the partnership with ISRO. So there's a lot in store for the space tech community as well. So stay tuned. And if you haven't already done it, do subscribe to our channel for regular updates from the startup ecosystem. And this episode is brought to you by Park Avenue. All right, so Shark Tank season 2 is out, and well, we also have a new judge in the show, is the co-founder of Car Dekho,
Yeah. Amit
and
Gupta, I think, right?
Amit Gupta, yes. And in the pilot, there already some controversy where the sharks turned down an offer which is made by a competing brand to Sugar Cosmetics,
Hmm.
and many in Twitter and other online forums are comparing Shark Tank India with Indian Idol because of the amount of emotional quotient it brings into the show. But have you watched any of the episodes yet?
I haven't watched any of the episodes. I've only watched the clips so far, but I'm really excited for the fact that two startup operator founders
Yeah.
are featured on this season, right? We have Vinay of Stage and we have Ganesh of Flatheads. So both of them are fantastic founders, and I'm very happy to see them on the show. There's also another founder, Aniket Dogar of Hak Darshak, who had interviewed on Bharat Varta,
Okay.
right? I mean, he's doing a lot of work on last mile social, welfare and so on. Again, fantastic business. I mean, check out Hak Darshak. He's also on Shark Tank this time. So yeah, I mean, it's fantastic to have spoken to three of these folks. Ganesh's episode, I mean, at least from what I've seen of the clips, has been interesting. Apparently, Flatheads hasn't been doing all that well, and he kind of broke down on national television. It's hard, man. It's really hard. I felt very bad, looking at it because Flatheads is an amazing, amazing brand. It's just such an amazing brand. If folks are listening to it, I mean, if you want to slip into the most comfortable shoes ever, then check out flatheads.in. I think after the show, they've done reasonably well. They've really well, in fact. I mean, they've sold out, but they're available in the US and in the Middle East as well. Check it out, let others know about it. If you love a product, then definitely buy it and recommend it, and share it as well. It's really, really important to support founders, and hopefully there's a temporary blip and they kind of recover, because I think that entire market segment, it's just so hard to serve, right? I mean, shoes, there's a lot of returns, right? But although, I mean, I should say Flatheads has the best fit, really. I mean, my dad, who is like a super critic of all of these things, just instantly loved the brand, and in fact, I've got him a couple of shoes over the years. It's such a hard segment to execute. Generally a lot of returns, very limited repeat purchases, and shoes, unlike shirts, are not stuff that you buy like three or
Right.
four or five at a time, right? I mean, you perhaps have two, maybe three. You might have a little more, but I mean, you kind of restricted to that. But all said and done, fantastic shoes. I really hope that yeah, they make it.
Yeah. So when in last season we saw a number of startups get funded, right? And while we're just in season 2, I think we still have to wait a few more years to actually see how the startups that got funding are doing.
Mm.
But 35 episodes in season 1, 50 episodes in season 2. So just imagine the number of applicants the show is getting, right? And
Yeah.
I think this show has done a tremendous job in highlighting that innovation in the country is coming from all nooks and corners.
Oh, for sure. I mean, so that is the magic of Shark Tank, right? I mean, the fact that it makes all of this startup innovation living room conversations, right? I mean, the family is watching the show, perhaps, over dinner. And instead of, whatever else, I'm glad that people are thinking about this. And that's what it did to the US as well. I mean, they've done 10 plus seasons there. And it's great. I mean, entrepreneurship should be encouraged. and even just simply understanding the lexicon, the vocabulary, revenue, profit,
Hmm.
target market, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, this will do a lot of good for younger folks who are watching it. Who knows? I mean, they might get inspired to start their own
Yeah.
businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sure, we'll be hearing more such stories. Moving on to Mamaearth, I think Mamaearth was the last company to file their IPO papers. I think this was sometime the last week of December,
Hmm.
right? And I think the retail investor community has really backlashed at the valuations they're asking,
Mm.
right? Last During the last fundraise, they were valued at I think 1.2 billion dollars, and right now I think they're asking 3x that valuation.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Almost
Because
3x, I suppose, right? And
hmm,
look, the public has caught on to this game, right? Where yeah, even if you look at the other startups as well, right? I mean,
hmm,
somehow their valuation increases 2 or 3 times in a year before going IPO. And if you've seen what's happened in the public markets to some of these stocks, whether it's Zomato, Paytm, Nika, etc., all of them have been cut to size, right? I mean, the public market investors are very smart and ruthless, right? I mean, they have this quarter tech mentality. They don't forgive larger brands like Reliance and Tata, right? I mean, so forget
yeah,
about
there were a lot of comparisons made with HUL as well.
yeah, I think because they operate in that same segment, I think few different things with Mamaearth, right? So I think the first thing is people aren't very sure how much of the dependence is on these platforms like Amazon and Flipkart, right? Some are saying that 70% of their sales comes from them. And so tomorrow, what happens if they deprioritize in their algorithms on that platform? Or what if Amazon comes to them and says that I'm going to hike my fees by
Mhm.
10%, 15%? It's going to affect them, right? Or worst case, what happens if Flipkart and Amazon produce their own lifestyle products like this, right? And that's a risk for sure. And to mitigate that, they've started expanding offline. But of course, I mean, if you are going to ask for D2C online valuations, you
Right.
can't also say that you're an offline player, right? And it's just been a year, 2 years of expanding offline. Another thing that people have pointed to is the over dependence on their top 5 or 10 products, right? I mean, literally, I think more than probably close to around 50% of the sales comes from those 10 products. And
Okay.
so, what happens tomorrow if there's some kind of a competition on any of those products and they slip up on that, right? I mean, so there's that as well. And finally, with respect to the valuations, right? I mean, look, again, public market people are just going to look at apples to apples. You're operating in a segment with HUL, which is trading at I don't know 25, 30 times PE, and here is Mamaearth
True.
at
True.
1700 times PE, right? And interestingly, Nika, even after all of the share price going down and everything, is at about 1000 PE. While I personally don't think that PE is price to earnings is the end all be all of things, right? I mean, good stocks always get a premium, and you can't really perfectly time the pricing of a stock. It is something to look at, right? I mean, you can say that HUL has a 40-year legacy, it has an international conglomerate supporting it, all of that. But look, people are going to look at apples to apples in the category that you're operating in and say that, hey, why should I buy you at such a premium? What do you have that maybe an HUL doesn't have or someone else doesn't have, right? So
Right.
difficult times for sure. I mean, we talked about the fact that I don't think startups can raise at a 5 billion, 6 billion sort of a valuation anymore, right,
Hmm.
in the public market. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. Also, this whole price discovery as such. I mean, I hope they've listened to the feedback that they've gotten and are more tempered. Right. There was also another allegation on promoters selling their stake, right, which is a huge red flag.
That
I
really does
mean,
not instill a vote of
it
confidence
doesn't
among
instill
investors.
confidence in investors, right? I mean, there's this whole ESOP issue with Paytm as well that VSS hasn't been granted ESOPs this time. The point is that the founder has to have skin in the game, right? I'm not saying that founders shouldn't liquidate. They should obviously take some of the top, right? Because hey, I mean they've worked really hard
Right.
for it. But in the initial public offering, maybe they should have waited it out. Who knows? Yeah,
But another really important point here, right? It's the whole return on ad spend because
yeah.
for Mamaearth over the
It's
past
been
three fiscals is
flatlining. Yeah,
flat at 2.5.
yeah,
So what this means is that with every dollar that Mamaearth is spending on ads, they're getting a return of $2.50 back.
yeah,
So for Nika, I think the number is close to 12,
yeah,
and for some other of the bigger consumer product companies, that's even higher, right?
yeah.
So
No, the bigger problem is it's flatlining, right? Because see, you're raising money to, pump into advertising, but
Right.
if your advertising is kind of flatlining, then, you're not going to get that exponential
So this
growth that you
also
are
means
claiming.
that there's not enough return customers or like repeat purchase
Yeah.
of products for
Yeah.
them.
No, it's hard. I mean, I have used Mamaearth products. I mean, I perhaps bought it once or twice. I haven't really repeated. It's a tough market for sure. Yeah.
Okay, but talking about IPOs, SEBI has also returned the DHRP papers for OYO,
Hmm.
right? Asking them to make some changes based on the newer rules and regulations, right? And this is already delaying OYO's IPO plans. I think they were slated to go public sometime last year, but then given the economic conditions, they delayed it to this year, like early of this year. But I think that's gonna get further delayed. But interestingly, in Twitter, Ritesh Agarwal, posted a tweet that the highest number of hotel bookings happened in this New Year's Eve,
Mm.
and Varanasi overtook Goa as the top destination for travelers.
I mean, I wouldn't have guessed that, but and especially given how cold it is up north right now. But yeah, see, this is par for the course. SEBI has kind of realized that there's something amiss with these startup IPOs, right? And so they're tightening the screws. In fact, I mean, the time to list has gone up significantly as well. It's 150 plus days right now.
Mhm.
But this whole IPO process is again very long-winded and complicated anyway, right? I mean, it takes a year of going back and forth and making sure your accounting and your finances are proper and stuff. So this is again par for the course. I mean, if you're going to list in the public markets, then you're going to have to stand up to the public market scrutiny for sure.
So last week, Satya Nadella was in Mumbai to address some founders and industry leaders, right? Where he really spoke about the leaps India has made in terms of digital transformation and
Mm.
how far India has come along in adopting digital technologies. He even spoke with Nandan Nilekani about the progress UPI has made.
Mm.
And in his address, he also announced a new partnership with ISRO, where Microsoft will be providing Azure services and other cloud-based services to founders and their companies. Right? We have seen the amount of growth space tech has made in India over the past year or 2 years, right? And I'm sure there's much, much more news that will be coming along away from this industry.
Yeah, more infrastructure, more resources are always welcome, especially for a nascent sector like space. I mean, I think we need all the support possible. I just caught Satya's speech, and a couple of things stood out, right? I mean, he is most excited about the fact that we have the widest developer base. I mean, of course, Microsoft knows all of this
Right.
because they own GitHub, right? And more interestingly, he says the highest number of AI projects have originated from India, which is again fantastic stuff, really. And the general optimism about the economy, right? I mean, look, I think even if we very, very imperfectly march forward, right? I mean, we're going to be perhaps the second, third largest economy in by 2030. That's just how compounding works, right? I mean, we're growing 6-7%, and this is the same thing that every significant business leader talks about, whether it is Ambani, Adani, or Nadella as well, right? So yeah, I mean, a lot to be optimistic about for India, in the 2020s and beyond. Happy to see this. Yeah.
So there are a lot of people who are optimistic about the progress we do make with our AI investment, right? For example, if you take Bhashini,
Mm.
right, that's working on like more vernacular stuff, which will like readily impact people who may not even be well versed in English, right?
Yeah.
This episode of the Startup Operator podcast is brought to you by Park Avenue. Now that we're all back at the office meeting colleagues and clients, it's time to ditch those PJs and look sharp with Park Avenue's range of 100% cotton, wrinkle free shirts. They're super easy to maintain and keep you looking fresh through the day. So, my fellow startup operators, visit the Park Avenue store on myraymond.com and check out the new wrinkle free shirt collection.
Yeah, also last week the draft gaming rules were published, right? I think they published it to take consideration from other bodies. But with these draft rules, firstly, the control moves on from the state to the center
Mhm.
because this is under the purview of the Ministry of Electronics and IT. The rules address two things right now. One is that there'll be a grievance redressal system will be put up, and they'll be mandating the eKYC process of both intermediaries and gamers,
Mm.
right? But still the rule did not clarify anything, the differences between what is a game of skill and what is a game of chance, right?
Mm.
And I think that is the question which people want answered the most. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a gray area, man. I think the government, the regulators are rightly concerned about betting on outcomes. That is something that they want to mitigate. And if you look at, what's happened in China, for instance, right, where there's a huge crackdown on consumer tech, it goes just beyond, what is right and what is wrong legally, right? I mean, it gets into this whole moral, ethical framework.
Right.
And you look at what China has done. Like, for instance, they've banned TikTok for kids in China, right? And um, you could say that, hey, I mean, it's just content. But then, I mean, if your kid is getting programmed by all of this stuff and is spending an undue amount of time on that, then as a government, I mean, perhaps, I mean, it's their responsibility to ensure health and safety, right? So yeah, it's good that this is moved to the central level, and there will be greater sanity in terms of, okay, what is right and what is wrong. Because if it's at the federal level, then it just becomes very difficult, right? Because Karnataka may say something, Telangana may say something else, and
So talk about
yeah.
Karnataka in March last year, in 2022. Karnataka government had filed a case with the High Court, right, asking them to ban online gaming in the state. While the High Court did not implement that ban, so Karnataka government has even challenged this ruling in the Supreme Court. Right, so I think there will be a lot of clarity under that, because today a lot of different states have their own rules towards online gaming. For example, Tamil Nadu, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, they have their own sets of rules. But now coming under the federal umbrella, there'll be more standardization towards it.
Yeah. Do you remember Lotto? Lotto?
The
I mean,
Choco
that was
Lotto
around 15 or 20 years
that
back, I think.
manufactures Choco Pies, right?
No, no, not just that. I mean, there was this Lotto online lottery, six
Yeah,
digit
huh.
lottery, basically. I mean, I just remembered that. I mean, something from my childhood. Yeah, I remember Lotto. Lotto was the significant gaming, not gaming, I mean, it's a betting thing, right? I mean, 6 digits, basically. And I did buy a few of those, but didn't get
They have
anything.
got lucky, but I think you should first get lucky with your allotments.
Not for any startup IPOs, for sure, at any rate.
Also, last week, Ola announced that it's creating a new API for developers to allow them to use the Ola Maps, which they're currently working on. This is currently live with the electronic vehicles, with the EVs of Ola. Today, if you look at it, Ola is using service of Map My India, but I think there is one name that comes to mind when anyone talks about maps and mobiles, right? And which is
Let me guess. Google?
yeah, but Google today has been like the market leader in maps, right? And we are having these, and we also have a small segment of startups that are working in geospatial technologies. So, do you think more and more companies will reduce the dependency on Google to come up with their
Yeah,
own
see,
tech?
Maps is such an ubiquitous feature, right? I mean, in a lot of these consumer apps, whether you take Uber or Dunzo or Ola or anything, Swiggy or whatever, right? So definitely more options in terms of this will only make things more competitive for startups to like procure this, right? I mean, hey, at Waymo we ourselves use Maps API, and I can tell you it's not the cheapest for sure. So more options are definitely helpful. But also, I mean, good to see, some product innovation, some technology innovation at Ola, right? I mean, they've built and scaled this whole mapping infrastructure for themselves, and now they want to sort of take it out there
Right.
and offer it to others, right? So yeah, definitely useful and interesting as well.
Also, about the EVs, right? The government also seems to be making the New Year resolutions, because they have decided to go after those companies that have misused the funds which are given under FAME 2 subsidy. So there have been complaints. The Ministry of Heavy Industries have received complaints regarding misappropriation of FAME 2 subsidies against Hero Electric, Okinawa Autotech, and other companies, right? But this FAME 2 subsidy, what it allowed for manufacturers who are using 50% of locally sourced material, they were given a huge discounts on that, right? At least 50% of the cost would have been was subsidized. And but yeah, now complaints are coming that this 10,000 crore rupee program, the funds have been misused, right? So do you think this is going to impact, costs of EV, and that therefore impact the
No,
adoption?
see, it's again genie out of a bottle situation. The government definitely wants to back EV, and these are minor indiscretions that will be dealt with, right? I mean, find me a rule and I'll find you an exception. I mean, people will definitely try to push the boundaries of what is right and what is wrong. And yeah, the regulators should take the right action. The FAME to subsidies are absolutely important at this point of time, because EV is early in the adoption curve, right? And if I'm deciding between a Honda Activa and perhaps an Ola S1 or S3 or whatever it is, the fact that the Ola bike is 20 or 30% cheaper makes it comparable to my Honda Activa, right? I mean,
Right.
otherwise it'll perhaps cost 50% more, and it'll be out of the comparison range itself. So I think the FAME to subsidies are necessary. These are things that they will iron out for sure.
How many kilometers have you ridden your Activa?
You will not believe it. So just this morning, I was doing an entire calculation. It's 3,337. So I've saved about 1 lakh rupees that I would have otherwise spent on Ola or Uber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do take out your scooter.
Yes, of course.
All right. Cool. Let's wrap up the other headlines from the week. Credit B had raised its second tranche of $100 million of its 200 million Series D fundraise, which was led by Advent International. Insurance Deco, which is a division of Car Deco, has raised $36.5 million in its first external investment round, which was led by West Street Global. Then dialect-based hyperlocal OTT platform Stage, which you earlier spoke about, has raised 40 crore rupees in a funding round led by Bloom Ventures. Now, Stage is working in a really interesting space. And now, what they're doing is they're bringing regional content onto OTT platforms. They started with Haryanvi content in 2019. Today, they have over 2,25,000 subscribers for that. Then it launched for the Rajasthani dialect in 2022 June and already has 10,000 plus paying members. Right? I mean, the growth has been amazing.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. I've spoken about the monetization journey before. The fact that they're able to get Bharat to sort of fund this, and that, I mean, we think that people will not pay for content, right? But I'm deadly sure that if you produce something of value, I think people definitely pay for it, irrespective of which corner of India you're in, for sure, right? It's really nice. I mean, I hope that they bring up more content in other dialects as well. I'm really hoping at some point of time people start producing, content in Kodavatak, which is spoken in Coorg, where I'm from, right? So, yeah, let's see. I mean, it's a great initiative. Credit B is another interesting round, right? I mean, $200 million. I mean, we said that large check sizes have disappeared, but it's good to see, the
Yeah.
odd one making the news.
No, so I think this will be a trend. I mean, for 2023, right? Because in 2021, 2022, all these startups were asked, or rather, they were forced to shed excess weight, right? I mean, they had to cut down on unnecessary spends and start focusing on only what's core to their business. And I think in 2023, those startups which have proven that they have good business sense, these are the startups that will continue seeing large check sizes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, see, Credit B operates in a market which has Bajaj Finance. Bajaj Finance, the market penetration, even though it's the leader, right? The market penetration compared to how much they can get, right? They're still at the very nascent start of their journey, and they are valued at $55 billion or something, right? So really, I mean, the new to credit market, unsecured lending in India is a gold mine. If you can figure it out, and again, Bajaj Finance has done it extremely well. If you can figure this market out, and it's really like a gold mine for the taking. There are 400 million plus new to credit customers available, and the thing with India is that we don't have credit history for so many people, right? So finding newer ways to sort of underwrite these loans and building a profitable business model in that will be the challenge to address going forward.
Right. All right, so Balaji Srinivasan had put a really interesting tweet where he compares two maps of India's in a GIF, right? One map is from 2012 and the other is from 2022. And these compare stats like growth in highway network, increase in nighttime luminosity, and other factors which show progress of a country. And
Yeah.
the maps look really stark, right? There's a lot of higher density in the northern regions as compared to the south, but it shows just how much you're progressing as a country.
No, this is fantastic. See, the digital infrastructure that we have is undoubtedly the best in the world, and people are aware of Aadhaar, UPI, and going forward, ONDC, health stack, all of that stuff, right? But even the hard infrastructure that India is building, uh, you know, people are not really aware of how much toilets got built with Swachh Bharat, 90 crore plus toilets, right, in
Right.
record amount of time. Then you look at Nal Pe Jal, then you look at the gas cylinder subsidies, so on and so forth. I mean, these are like things that dramatically transform someone's life, right? The fact that the lady of the house does not have to walk a kilometer, maybe like, I don't know, 3 kilometers to the well, get the water back. The fact that families have potable water, right? The fact that there's electricity in the house. I mean, someone does not have to study under a lampshade. I mean, these are things that will unlock productivity at an order of magnitude, right? So it's fantastic to see this, and in fact, the prime minister itself had sort of quote tweeted this and had said,
Yeah.
development.
Development up, infrastructure up,
Yeah,
economy up.
yeah. So great stuff.
It's a lot of other things to be optimistic about this year. In the comment section, do let us know what you're looking forward to the most in 2023. And also, this week your conversation with Pramod of Unbox Robotics will be up.
Yeah, we'll finally put out that conversation with Pramod of Unbox Robotics, where we speak about how to build a hardware startup. Very young founder, has been with Flipkart earlier, and really nice short conversation on what it takes to build a hardware startup. Hopefully, we should also be able to put out that conversation with Sarvana Kumar, who is the founder of Kovai. Right? Maybe it may extend to next week, but yeah, we'll put that out as well. Fantastic business again, completely bootstrapped to 10 million plus dollars in revenue in SaaS. So yeah, plenty of very good episodes coming up.
Yep. Also, if there are other founders or even operators you want us to talk to in our conversations, do let us know through our social media channels. On Twitter, we are at Operator Startup, and on LinkedIn, it's the Startup Operator. Along with that, you'll find a WhatsApp link in the description below. By clicking on that, you will be subscribing for regular updates from us delivered straight into your WhatsApp inbox. Well, yeah, I think that's for this week. We're off to a great start and a lot of things to look forward to in 2023. We'll be back with again some amazing headlines next week.
Hey, before you leave, did you push record?
Yes, I did.
All right.
All right, guys, have a great week and we'll see you again next Sunday.
Thanks, guys. See ya.